Good evening, afternoon or morning. Movie Cat is at the microphone. Today I'm going to tell you about a movie that raises the question, what makes a woman happy? The second film about an accidental gigolo. Deuce Bigelow, European gigolo.
I like soft and weak.
You do?
Netherlands. Gigolo with blonde hair wakes up in a rich mansion, in bed with a beautiful woman. She thanks him for the night, pays the money and asks to leave, because her husband is already on the doorstep. The blonde jumps off the balcony when suddenly a maid is in his way. She also pays the blonde and thanks for the great night. Gigolo gets behind the wheel of a Porsche and pushes a gas pedal, when suddenly at the gate he is stopped by a guard, who thanks for a great night. Gigolo rides along the highway and stops in front of a railroad crossing. Suddenly a truck pushes him onto the tracks from behind, and a passing train smashes the Porsche, along with the Gigolo, to smithereens. Malibu, California. A former Gigolo, Deuce Bigelow, lost his ex-wife because she was eaten by sharks and only her prosthetic leg was left intact, which Deuce still kicks. One day, Deuce goes to the beach to test his apparatus, which emits waves to keep cetaceans from washing ashore. But some children throw this device into the water, a short circuit occurs, and suddenly the dolphins begin to bite and carry blind old people into the sea, who were brought by a charity organization to swim with the dolphins. Deuce quickly runs home. He gets a call from his old friend and former pimp TJ, who calls to visit Amsterdam, but Deuce refuses, because it's so far away. He turns on the TV and learns that the three old men who were carried away by the dolphins were never found. Meanwhile, the children describe to the police an identikit of an eccentric with a strange apparatus. They also lied that he touched them. Then Deuce decides that moving far away is a great solution. He puts his ex-wife's prosthesis in his travel bag and flies to Amsterdam. TJ meets Deuce, takes him to his boat and tells how he started doing business here. In Amsterdam, prostitution is legal, and that's why TJ became a pimp here. Things were going well until a maniac started to kill exclusively male prostitutes in the city. Also, he leaves a kiss on the victim bodies. TJ takes Deuce to a coffee shop for a smoke. There they accidentally meet Heinz Hammer, the coolest gigolo in Europe. For the second year in a row, he has been awarded the Golden Phallus statuette. Heinz Hammer leaves, and TJ says that he wants this male to work for him. Meanwhile, Heinz Hammer enters an alley and meets a large stranger dressed in a leopard coat. TJ leaves the coffee shop quickly to check if his gigolos are working well, and Deuce goes for a walk around the city and suddenly sees Heinz Hammer lying on the ground in an alley. Deuce thinks he's drunk, so he puts the body on himself and brings it to the boat. TJ returns, touches Heinz Hammer and screams in horror that he is dead. Having calmed down, TJ decides that the police will not believe that the dead gigolo accidentally get on the boat of a smoky black pimp, and therefore the body needs to be disposed of. Before throwing the corpse into the water, TJ decides to check if Heinz Hammer really has such a gigantic dick as rumored. At this moment, TJ is photographed by tourists. An hour later, Deuce sees on the news that TJ has been declared a serial killer. And one more hour later, the police enter the boat and arrest Deuce. Under interrogation, Deuce reveals that TJ did not kill Heinz Hammer. He was killed in an alley by a stranger in a leopard coat, whom Deuce managed to notice. The inspector doesn't believe Deuce and lets him go. To find TJ, Deuce heads to a cafe serving chicken and waffles. TJ sees a newspaper with a front-page article, "Pimp Gay Killed a Man." TJ is horrified at being considered gay. Deuce tells a friend about the alley and a stranger in a leopard coat. Then the two of them come to the conclusion that one of Gigolo clients is the very killer. TJ asks Deuce to return to the Gigolo profession in order to find the real killer. In Amsterdam, prostitution is legalized and Gigolos even have their own guild. That is where they go to find a list of clients. Sneaking into the meeting, TJ shows the most expensive Gigolos in Europe. Rodrigo, from Spain, can tie shoelaces with his tongue. Enzo is Italian. His penis is insured for $1 million. Deuce comes to the center and offers to unite against the killer, but the arrogant gigolos simply throw the stranger out of the window. Then TJ offers a backup plan. To seek help from his old friend, Deuce comes to a meeting at a restaurant and sees Antoine there, the guy who made once a reason for Deuce to try a gigolo profession. Twain is now working in Europe and he has stolen the client list from the guild. The first client is a huge woman. She cannot have children and is very worried about this, so Deuce agrees to her whim and dresses like a baby. Meanwhile, TJ is upstairs looking for clues and finds a lipstick. Deuce shows the inspector this lipstick and says that the suspect is a big and strong woman, but the inspector replies that the lipstick remains on the victims is very rare, called Evening Shimmer number 66. 20 years ago it was discontinued. At the entrance to the police station, a girl approaches the inspector, calls him Uncle Gaspar, and gives him lunch. The inspector sneezes and she slaps her face 3 times. Deuce comes over to ask why she's behaving so strangely. The girl says that it is obsessive-compulsive disorder. She can't ignore some SR10's own habits. For example, she can't touch doorknobs, and when somebody sneezes, she hits herself 3 times in the face. The girl's name is Eva. In her hands, Deuce notices a drawing of a Sudanese wress. Learning that she is fond of fish, he invites her to go to the city aquarium. Meanwhile, the gigolos from the guild, under various pretexts, refuse to work because of fear to meet the killer. The second client on the list is a girl with a hole in her throat. To talk, she uses a special speech adapter. It is difficult for her to find herself in life, and after a date, Deuce invites her to get a job as an announcer at the airport, where no one will notice her slightly robotic voice. At this time, Rodrigo, one of the most expensive gigolos of the guild, comes to dye his ass hair, sits down in a chair, when suddenly, behind his back, someone's hand changes a can of paint for a poison. Deuce asks Eva out on a date. They walk a lot and Deuce falls in love, gradually letting go of his dead wife in his heart. After one by one checking all the clients in the Netherlands, Deuce goes to check on others who live further. In Germany, Deuce meets a girl with a hump. To prevent people from laughing at her, he cuts off the back of the backpack and puts it on the girl. In Venice, his client becomes a girl who hates to wash. Deuce simply throws her off the gondola and, with a washcloth in hand, jumps after her. Later, Deuce returns to Amsterdam and tells TJ how one of the clients heard from Heinz Hammer about the strange photo in the Guild Museum. Meanwhile, at the guild, the Italian Enzo goes to the solarium. Suddenly, someone leaves a keys on the top cover of the solarium, ties it to the bottom one and turns on the maximum roasting. Deuce and TJ make their way to the Gigolo Museum, where all the memos of the development of male prostitution are kept. Among them, they find the right photo, which shows a blonde woman, partially covered by a leopard coat. Suddenly the guild members notice them. Deuce runs away and TJ decides to hide inside the solarium. It smells of burning there and TJ is horrified to find that there is a charred corpse next to him. The police arrest TJ and Deuce runs to Eve's house to tell about it. While the girl is washing in the shower, Deuce accidentally looks into the closet, where he sees a leopard coat and a blonde wig, and in the pocket of the coat there is lipstick Evening Shimmer number 66. Deuce realizes that Eve is the killer. He just doesn't know why she did it. Deuce hastens to tell this to her uncle Gaspar. The inspector first reaches for a pistol, and when he hears that the killer is his niece, he easily agrees with this and promises Deuce to arrest her. Gaspar collects a full bag of weapons and drives home. Meanwhile, Eva is watching the Gigolo of the Year award ceremony on TV. She goes upstairs to check if her uncle is at home and finds several figurines of the Golden Palace in his room. At this moment, Gaspar catches her. He says that he hates gigolos, so because of them, the decline of their glorious city has begun. The inspector admits that at today's awards ceremony, he booby-trapped the stage, and once all the male gigolos are out there at the end of the evening, he will blow up the stage. Later he'll put the blame on Deuce Bigelow. On the street, the inspector meets Deuce and tells him that Eva is at the ceremony. They get into the car and suddenly Eva catches up behind them on a bicycle and yells to Deuce that her uncle is the killer. The inspector easily admits this, pointing a gun at Deuce. Deuce asks why. The inspector says that he always dreamed of becoming a gigolo and therefore entered the Gigolo Institute. At the lecture, with the help of one of the models, they were shown how to properly make a Portuguese breakfast for a woman. At that moment, a desk mate offered him a penis enlargement pump. Suddenly, the model turns around and Gaspar recognizes his bride, and from shock begins to pump the pump even more actively. Suddenly there is an explosion. The inspector says that since the gigolos have deprived him of the opportunity to satisfy women, Then he will take revenge on them. Deuce grabs the steering wheel, so the car crashes and Inspector goes to the ceremony on a bicycle. 10 minutes later, Deuce bursts into the ceremony and yells that a bomb has been planted under the stage. Everyone quickly runs out of the hall into the street. Deuce is attacked from behind with a sword by an inspector. Gaspar keeps repeating that the gigolos have deprived him of the ability to satisfy women. Deuce then asks the inspector if he really thinks women really need a Portuguese breakfast. On the street, the gigolos, who are watching what is happening through television cameras, nod their heads in unison in the affirmative, and the women next to them shake their heads negatively. Deuce explains to Gaspar that women need first of all care, sympathy and understanding. Gaspar does not believe and takes out a detonator. Suddenly, Deuce's clients appear from the corner of the stage and one of them spits beer into Gaspar's eyes with a hole in her throat. Deuce then hits him over the head with the golden phallus. The Gigolo Guild presents this year's award to Deuce Bigelow. A few months later he marries Eva. TJ quits pimping and becomes a rapper. He doesn't write any album, but he gets shot several times. Gaspar finally becomes a male prostitute in prison. Thank you for watching. For more videos, please press the finger up, write comments and subscribe.